I built Waystation Sovara's life support grid, 17 years before the Karath sealed its doors. I remember the manifolds, the triple redundant oxygen cycling loops, the pressure regulators I spec'd for a population of 15,000 sustained over 6-month rotations. I remember the smell of the alloy shavings off the pipe threads, the way the corridor lights ran amber during pressure tests, the chief engineer telling me that this station would outlast both of us, and probably the war that came after whatever war was next. I remember thinking he was right. I was not on the station when the Karath filed their neutral transit certification with the Hegemony Compact. I was not there when the certification granted them unrestricted maintenance access under Protocol 17, the 800-year-old clause that said any signatory power could send technical crews to a declared neutral way station without inspection or delay. I was not there when their crews arrived, 43 of them, carrying toolkits, carrying nothing that scanned as a weapon, and spread quietly through the access corridors I had designed. I was on Earth when the station went dark. 11 days, no signal, no distress, no mayday on any frequency, just the manifest, frozen at the last update, 12,000 names. Civilians in transit, a diplomatic mission from Heron's Reach, a children's education cohort from the Outer Belt habitats, 2 field medics rotating back from the frontier. The manifest sat there on every analyst's screen for 11 days, not updating, not closing, just sitting with its 12,000 entries unchanged, which was the thing that told you everything. Because manifests on active stations always update, always. Someone always departs. Someone always arrives. And a manifest that stops moving is a manifest where no one is moving anymore. The Karath filed a compact notification on day 12. Quarantine enforcement action. Pathogen containment. All personnel held in place for medical assessment under Protocol 31. I pulled Protocol 31 from the compact archives that night. It authorized detention. It authorized movement restriction. It did not authorize, in any clause, in any amendment across 8 centuries of interstellar law, the silencing of communication systems, the sealing of emergency airlocks, or the termination of life support to residential corridors. The manifest never updated again. When the relief ships reached Sovara, 43 days after the station went dark, they found the life support grid I had built running on 1/3 capacity, the way you'd run it if you were preserving power and not preserving people. They found 12,000 bodies in the residential blocks, the transit lounges, the med bay, the corridor outside the children's education module where the Outer Belt cohort had been assigned their bunks. Each body had been processed. That is the word the Hegemony Compact used when they reviewed the Karath's administrative logs. Processed. There was a log entry for every one of them. Time-stamped. Cross-referenced against the original manifest. Neat. Thorough. Bureaucratically immaculate. The way the Karath did everything. 12,000 entries, each one closing a name. Admiral Senvaris gave me one of the 2 roles that were available for a civilian engineer, with 17 years of Sovara's schematics in his head. The first was technical advisor. The second was witness recorder. The person who sits on the bridge of the lead vessel and maintains the registry and reads the names aloud on open frequencies when each target falls. She looked at me the way people look when the answer is obvious, and they are deciding whether you deserve it. Explained. Because the Karath filed a log entry for every one of them, she said. So we file one for every one of theirs. The Obsidian Ledger, assembled at the Vathara transit point, over the course of 19 days. I watched them come in through the bridge viewport. 960 ships. Not all of them warships, because some of them were carrying the administrative apparatus we would need when installations surrendered and had to be formally catalogued and formally closed. Admiral Varys believed in formality. She had spent 3 days reviewing the Karath's own compact filings before she signed the Ledger's operational orders, confirming that each target, each of the 31 Karath transit hubs, embassy nodes, and diplomatic installations registered in the compact, was a legitimate Karath administrative holding, correctly identified, correctly classified. She signed the orders in black ink on paper. She told me she wanted something that would not degrade. I loaded the registry into my station on the morning we departed. 12,000 names, cross-referenced against the manifest, each one now holding a timestamp, a home habitat, a reason for transit, a next-of-kin notation where records allowed. It weighed on the system the way a living thing weighs, not heavily, but present, resistant, the way a file resists deletion when it is still open. The first target was Karath Embassy Node 7 at the Pellis Junction. It had processed 14,000 human transit applications in the 14 months before the Sovara action. The Karath staff had been given 72 hours of warning via sealed compact notification. Not because we owed them mercy, but because the compact required it, and we intended to be meticulous where the Karath had been meticulous, and thorough where the Karath had been thorough, and unambiguous where the Karath had believed ambiguity was a tool. They evacuated. The ships that should have carried them out were already surrounded. When Node 7 fell, I read the first 400 names on the open frequency. My voice was steady. I had practiced. I had decided that I would not be the part of this that failed. The second target took 3 days to reach. I read names during transit. I read them in the morning watch and the evening watch, and sometimes in the middle of the night cycle when I could not sleep, and the corridor lights in this ship ran blue instead of amber. Other crew members listened. A few of them brought me water. Nobody asked me to stop. The Karath Hegemony's first consul filed an emergency compact petition on day 11 of the Ledger's operation. He called it disproportionate. He cited the 800-year tradition of neutral transit law, and said that the Sovara action had been an administrative error, an overreach by a regional commander operating without full hegemony authorization, a tragedy that the hegemony deeply regretted, and stood ready to formally address through binding arbitration. Admiral Varys received the petition at 0600 station time. She forwarded it to the compact judicial archive, logged it as received, and continued on course to target 9. By day 19 we had closed 14 Karath installations. I had read 6,200 names. The hegemony had filed 4 more petitions. Each one was logged as received. None received a reply, because a reply would have implied that there was something to discuss, and there was nothing to discuss. The names were on the manifest. The manifest was the record. The record was the only thing that mattered. Target 22 was the Karath's oldest embassy in this arm of the galaxy. 400 years of continuous operation. The building where the neutral transit protocols had originally been drafted, where Protocol 17 had been written by a Karath diplomat who had apparently believed in it enough to put it on paper. It seemed right that we read the names there. It seemed right that those walls hear them. I read for 4 hours on the open frequency with the embassy's own communication array carrying the signal, because they had not yet finished evacuating, and the array was still hot. Later I learned some of them had recorded it. Target 31 was a small administrative relay node near the outer edge of Karath space. 11 staff, a records office. The kind of installation that exists because empires generate paperwork, and paperwork needs somewhere to live. We gave them their 72 hours. They left. The final name on the manifest was a child from Habitat Callaway 4, 11 years old, in the Outer Belt Education Cohort. Her name was Sarah Obi. Her next of kin notation listed her father, her mother, and a younger brother. Outbound. I read her name. I closed the registry file. The corridor lights on the lead vessel of the Obsidian Ledger ran blue. They have run blue since we departed. I have not asked why, and nobody has told me. And I think we all understand it is not a thing that requires explaining. The Karath Hegemony exists. We did not erase them. We closed 31 installations, dismantled one transit network, and made 11 compact filings. One for each day of the Sovara action. One citing the specific Protocol 31 violations in precise legal language, each one entered into the permanent compact record where any civilization in this arm of the galaxy can read it, forever. I do not know if the Karath will rebuild their transit network. I do not know if another civilization will look at what happened at Sovara, at what it cost them, and decide that Protocol 17 is a tool worth picking up. I know that every name on it was read, aloud, on an open frequency, into a recording that 17 systems received, and some of them kept. I know what I built on Waystation Sovara, and what it was used for, and I know that the next civilization that files a neutral transit certification and sends 43 people with toolkits into a station full of humans in transit will know what we did with 12,000 names. That is the record. That is what we filed. That is what we leave.